natural being that we are answerable to. And that is the root of sin right there, that concept, that we're independent, that there's no God. So if there's no God, then you're not answerable to anyone. Therefore, there's no right and wrong. It's only what you think is right and wrong. So this is a dilemma. Now, the reason we explained this is there were a lot of kids here yesterday. They go to school and they sit next to someone that's eating meat. Now, eating meat is a sinful activity. But the person eating meat, he thinks it's right. Now, how should a devotee child look at that? And if you see someone on his left side and someone on his right side and someone in front of him, someone behind him eating meat, and he's not eating meat, and the others are sort of making fun of him, then he feels as if maybe he's doing something wrong. But the correct way to see it is they are doing something wrong. But they're so much in ignorance, they don't think it's wrong. They think it's okay. So the first thing is that the sin is a symptom of a disease. It's not a healthy condition. Just like if you see a person who's blowing his nose all the time, coughing and sneezing, you know they're sick. So the same thing when you see a person eating meat, you know they are sick. They're in a sick state of human existence. And when they're engaged in taking intoxication, they're engaged in illicit sex, they're engaged in gambling and philosophical speculation. They're sick. They're not normal. That's not the normal condition of a human being. Okay, so we discussed this yesterday. We also discussed, why kids go to public school and study mundane knowledge. The assumption is that most of them, if not all of them, will get married. And if you get married, you have to make money. And you have to make money honestly. And to do that, you need to be involved in some kind of, let's say, activity that can be remunerated. So, therefore, you have to study some aspects of mundane knowledge. You don't have to do this. Like if you decide at a young age, I'm never going to get married, then you wouldn't have to get all that mundane knowledge. But it's assumed that everyone will get married, so therefore they need to have some qualification. Although, if you cultivate Krishna consciousness at the same time, you'll see that there are many other options in life than simply the conventional route. But we're not going to go that. I didn't go into that. I didn't want to confuse them. So I said the only reason you're going to these public schools and learning all this mundane knowledge is to get a job. But if you look at it like that, then you're not going to be, and you understand the pitfalls of it, then you'll be able to manipulate that learning process without getting contaminated. But if you don't understand the pitfalls of it, what are the pitfalls? First of all, the whole system is based on humanistic principles, so it's all atheistic, right? Therefore, they'll teach you the Big Bang, they'll teach you, Darwinism, they'll teach you different types, new types of morality. It's all right to have two daddies, two mommies. Homosexuality is not an aberration. It's a lifestyle. So they're going to be teaching you all these things unless you know from and in order to know something is true or false, I taught them the 7 principles of logic.
So they teach this in like social classes?
Yeah, of course.
Like a secondary school?
No. At elementary school, they start teaching about two daddies, two mommies.
Really?
They bring in homosexuals to talk about it directly to the kids. I'm not kidding you.
Far out.
It's not far out. It's normal for them. That's the whole point. We have to understand that these are all symptoms of sickness. It's not natural. It's not normal. It's not related to anything, to the soul. It's only related to a perverted vision of reality. And the others are trying to convince us this is normal, right? So it's a dilemma for a kid unless they hear the truth at an early age. Earlier the better. Then they're not going to, be tricked by it. But if they don't hear this, then they'll just go along with it, and eventually they become an atheist also, and a demon. The demons don't see meat eating, illicit sex, gambling as bad. They see it as normal. Okay, so in the Vedic tradition, we have what's called Varna Ashrama, so we discussed that. Varnas are acceptable occupations, right? So there's Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. And I explained that first you get your Varna, and then you figure out your ashrama. If first you get your ashrama, and then you're trying to figure out your Varna, you get confused sometimes. But first you figure out your Varna. And that depends on, overview of what your life is going to be. If you're going to get married, then you need some kind of Varna. But it could be Brahmana. Brahmanas are educators, but they have a lifestyle that you have to follow. There's a vow of poverty. They don't try to artificially increase their economic position. They live very simply. And they eat simply and have a disciplined life, but they have great intellectual capacity. And they earn a living by teaching and by doing religious ceremonies and rituals, and also receiving donations. Right? So they can be a teacher, like Dronacharya was a Brahmana teacher. He was teaching the art of war. He was an expert in it, right? But he was actually a Brahmana. He was teaching it. So, you can become a teacher. And but if you become a teacher in a public school, you're obliged to teach the nonsense that they force you to teach. If you revolt against it, they throw you out. So you have to, find a situation where you can teach bona fide knowledge. And that's possible. That's very possible. Okay, so, and then once you have your Varna figured out, then you evolve in the ashrama system. And that should be done early in life. So the ashrama system is parallel to the Varna system, usually. And that way you can have a balanced life and not become contaminated by the nonsense. Now, everything depends on what our motive is. If our motive is to go back to Godhead, and we're convinced of that early on, then we can adjust everything toward that. If we don't know what our motive is, and we go to public school, we end up thinking the motive is to make money and to enjoy sense gratification. And then we can waste the rest of our life doing that. And because of that, that is a very parochial, limited view of reality. Therefore, people never achieve real love. They never achieve real emotional stability. They never achieve anything substantial in their life. They might achieve wealth, prestige, but they don't actually achieve love and empathy, compassion, tolerance, cleanliness, etc. So you cannot achieve those things with a partial vision of reality. You have to know you have to have the whole panoramic view of reality in order to achieve those things to completeness. So when they get a material education, they only have one little, very limited section of reality that they're looking at, and that they also see incorrectly. So therefore, they never achieve these things, and they become frustrated. So this is explained. It says here, Okay, let's read some more of this purport. We'll get into it. The body is the field of activities and is composed of material nature. The individual soul is embodied and enjoying the activities of the body is the Purusha, or the living entity. He is one knower, and the other is the supersoul. Of course, it is to be understood that both the supersoul and the individual entity are different manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entity is in the category of his energy, and the supersoul is in the category of his personal expansion. Both material nature and the living entity are eternal. That is to say, that they existed before the creation. The material manifestation is from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and so also are the living entities. So we see all the expansions of Krishna are his energy. All living entities are his energy. The material nature is his energy. The Brahma Jyoti is his energy. All these things belong to him. Nothing is independent of him. Both the living entities and material nature existed before this cosmos was manifested. Material nature was absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu, and when it was required, it was manifested by the agency of Mahat Tattva. Mahat Tattva is the totality of the material nature with the modes of material nature and the time factor acting. And pradhana is the unmanifest state where time factor and modes of material nature are not acting. Right? Similarly, the living entities are also in him, and because they are conditioned, they are averse to serving the Supreme Lord. Thus, they are not allowed to enter into the spiritual sky. But with the coming forth of material nature, these living entities are again given a chance to act in the material world and prepare themselves to enter into the spiritual world. That is the mystery of this material creation. So, if a child learns what is the purpose of the material creation, they already have a big head start over everybody else in society about, how to achieve the purpose of life. Most people think material nature is just there and we're just here, and the more money we make and the more power we have and the more sense gratification we have, that's the criterion of success. But actually, it's completely wrong. The purpose of material creation is prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead, not to stay in this world with attachments. Actually, the living entity is originally the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but due to his rebellious nature, he's conditioned within material nature. That conditioning is by time, by the modes of material nature, by karma, by all these things that we said. It really does not matter how these living entities or superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with material nature. Yeah, you don't have to, if you're in the middle of a forest fire, you're not going to sit down and say, until I figure out how this happened, I'm not going to run away. That's crazy. Yeah. Once you get free, you run away and get free of the fire, then you can ponder all you want. How did it happen? The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. In the scriptures, the Lord says that those attracted by the material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. So this was the second point we discussed that we should remember. First point, purpose of material creation. Second point, attraction to material nature leads to a hard struggle for existence. These are the points we discussed yesterday with the kids. As soon as you're attracted to eating that piece of meat, because the kids around you are saying, oh, you don't know what you're missing, it tastes so good. Well, that's what Satan or the devil told Eve, you don't know how good that apple that God told you not to eat really tastes. It's a type of sense gratification you never had before. And she gets fooled and eats it, and then she gets shamed right away. She feels anxiety that she never felt before, and then they're thrown out of the Garden of Eden. In the scriptures, the Lord says that those attracted by this material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. But we should know it with certainty from the descriptions of these few verses that all transformations and influences of material nature by the three modes are also productions of material nature. In other words, if you stick your hand in a fish tank that has piranhas in it, what do you think will happen? They'll bite you, and you probably lose a finger, right? So, as soon as you are attracted to that piece of meat or that that hope for having illicit sex or whatever, what happens? The piranha bites you. Why? Because it's all part of material nature. And as soon as you touch something, transformation begins. Right? As soon as that's why being engaged all the time in devotional service is to keep us away from touching the material nature, which will force us into a whirlpool of struggle for existence. Therefore, sometimes you walk into a first-class store, everything is first class, and they say, look but don't touch.
Yes.
Look but don't touch, right? Because as soon as you touch it and something happens to it, you have to pay for it. Of course, little kids, they're so, out of control. They're grabbing this and that, And therefore, someone who's touching, they're like a little kid. They have no control over themselves. They don't realize. Just like the snake with a diamond on its head, the cobra with the diamond on it. The people, I can grab I'm going to give it a try, If I succeed, I'll get rich, If I don't succeed, well, I'm dead meat, No, as soon as you touch it, go for that jewel, the cobra is going to bite you. Right? That's how perfect material nature is, right? Maya. But we should know it with certainty from the descriptions of these few verses that all transformations and influences of material nature by the three modes are also productions of material nature. All transformations and variety in respect to living entities are due to the body. As far as spirit is concerned, living entities are all the same. Meaning the spirit is immutable. It doesn't change. It's always eternal. It's not that it can be chemically bonded with matter in some way. It's always independent, always different than matter. Okay, so that was one thing. Those are two major points that we got yesterday from this purport. Now if we go back to Prabhupada's lecture that we were studying, the living entities and material nature described as anadi, without a beginning. Right? Anadi means beginningless. Okay. Therefore, the living entities and the material nature is potency. In other words, the energies of the Lord, just like we just read, of the Supreme Lord, remained existent even before birth of time and space. Even before the birth of time and space measurement of cosmic manifestation. Past, present, and future, all these were born with the cosmos, but the living entity, Purusha, and the material nature, Prakriti, both are transcendental to this cosmic time and space. Very interesting point. It is never to be understood that the living entity or the material nature are born within the limits of time and space. Now, see, this is our problem. Scientists want to, yeah, they do. They want to limit everything, time and space. So they think that they can overcome time. If they make a rocket fast enough, they can overcome time. And space, they think that, one day they can go 40,000 light years to some other, part of the universe. Obviously, it's not possible with the material body. As the Supreme Lord is, not the material body that we have on the earth. Maybe there are other material bodies and other planets that can do that. Our material body is not able to do that. As the Supreme Lord is ever existent, so also is different potencies. The material nature becomes manifested as the cosmic universe, and the living entities are impregnated within the material nature by the supreme will of the Lord. The section of living entities as conditioned soul, who are impregnated with this material nature, are, so to say, disobedient sons of the Lord, who refused to obey the supremacy of the Lord and tried to make an overlordship over material nature. So that's the generic explanation of why we're in the material world. We don't know the specific thing that we did, but we know the general principle of what we did. This temperament of disobedience to the will of the Lord's desire, to lord it over. This temperament of disobedience to the will of the Lord, this temperament of disobedience to the will of the Lord, okay, I got to read this. I'm going to just read it as it is. It seems to me there's a little mistake here. This temperament of disobedience to the will of the Lord, desire to lord it over material nature, is the root of all vices. Okay, but Lord naturally lords it over everything. So disobedience.
Disobedience to the will of the Lord, which is the desire to lord it over.
Yeah, which is desire. Which is to lord it over the material nature, is the root of all vices, right? Otherwise, the living being in his natural state is the purest of the pure, as the Lord is the purest of pure. How this spirit of disobedience came into being in the pure nature of the soul is an inconceivable speculation in our present state. Okay, so now, did the living entity fall down from the spirit's world or not? So it's an inconceivable speculation in our present state. So why are our own devotees speculating and arguing over this point?
Long articles.
Yeah, books. Prabhupada says it's an inconceivable speculation in our present state. And so we come back to the example of the forest fire, right? The only explanation can be offered in this connection is that even in our present state, there are some men who are devoted to the Lord, while there are others who do not even believe in the existence of the Lord. Prabhupada's, you start with the known to understand the unknown. So we see today, there are some people who believe in the Lord and some people don't. So it's possible that people fell down. That's basically what he's saying. Sometimes we meet persons who frankly say that they have no belief in God, and if we want to rectify such misconception about God, even then, they refuse to entertain discussion. I know people like that. Now, who is right and who is wrong? There you go. The man who believes in God has many supporters in authentic literature, meaning the acharyas, all over the world. The Vedas, the Bible, the Quran, and all such authentic literatures are tangible support to the man who believes in God, but the unbelievers have practically no support save and except some irrational argument of begging the question. Now, that's good. What is begging the question? Begging the question means you state a premise, but in the course of the discussion, you assume that it's true. Huh?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So therefore, that's called begging the question. You assume that the premise that is unproven is true, and then you continue talking. I think so. Yeah. Now, how this happens when the God believers were born, or when the unbelievers were born, nobody can say. But still, in fact, we can experience that there is a class of believers and a class of unbelievers. Yeah, when did we originally come into the material world? No one can say. But we can say that some people believe and some people don't believe in God. But still, in fact, we can experience that there is a class of believers and a class of unbelievers, never mind how and when they came in existence. So again, you're starting with the known to understand the unknown. It's a brilliant strategy of Prabhupada. He's doing it here. For the present, we can simply accept that there are two classes of men or living entities. The unbelievers are called materialists, and the believers are called spiritualists. The more a man becomes a spiritualist, the more and more he becomes freed from the contamination of material qualities. The material qualities, in their varied degree, are all vices, while the spiritual qualities are inborn qualities of the spirit soul. In other words, sin is not inherent to the living entity. It's something acquired by associating with the modes of material nature and becoming attracted to material nature. So if someone says they're homosexual, now they're claiming, oh, I was born like that. You see, that's a false argument. It's something acquired. You might be born with some physical capabilities or not, but that doesn't mean it's an inborn trait of homosexuality. It just means it depends on what you associate with in this life. So some people say their inborn quality is to eat meat. They're carnivorous by nature. That's not true. It's something acquired, learned.
But throughout the previous lives?
Well, they have a tendency toward it if they did it in the previous life, but it's reacquired in this life. Just like I was born in a meat-eating family, and I ate meat, for like 21 years, right? I thought it was natural. But then I learned that it's not natural. So I had that tendency to be a meat eater from previous life. That's why I was born in a meat-eating family, but I overcame it. So someone can be born a heterosexual and have the physical equipment of a heterosexual, but by association, they decide to become homosexual, right? They might have had a tendency from previous lives, but it was reaffirmed in this life by their choices. It's not that they were forced to be a homosexual. Okay?
What is homosexual? Girl with girl and boy with...
Yes, yeah. It's something learned. It's not you are born like this. We're born with tendencies, from inclinations from previous life, but it has to be reaffirmed by our choices in this life. I mean, I might have been a murderer in my last life, right? But, I can learn not to be like that in this life by proper training. So we're born with so many tendencies. We were born because of sin after sin. That's why we're born in this world. But we can be trained properly. Now, some people refuse to be trained. They're the sickest. They're the deepest ignorance. And this is the spirit of disobedience. that Prabhupada's talking about earlier.
You are saying that after knowing, they don't want to change.
Yes. Yeah. They're given the choice, they're given the education, and they just feel attracted to, it all depends on association. All depends on who you're associating with.
But the child doesn't have the ability to associate. He's born in a particular family and he has to follow.
Well, when they get older, they can do whatever they want, right? But nowadays, they give internet, cell phones to little kids, and they go over and they see so many things. And video games and movies. So they're starting early with, opening up their eyes to the world of corruption. Before, they were more, secluded, protected. Now, it's like Ajamil, he's 16 years old, he sees a man and a woman and two sudras having sex in the forest, and he watches it, and it blows his mind. Now you can see that, when you're 6 years old, you can go on the internet, if you don't have a protected, internet connection, you can see pornography, right when you're 6 years old. Right? Okay, so the material qualities in their varied degree are all vices, while the spiritual qualities are inborn qualities of the spirit soul. Otherwise, all virtues are all spiritual, and they are ever existent in the spirit soul. The vices are described as vikara, or derangement. You see what's happening. See, there's a cultural change right now. What is a cultural change? They're trying to say that these vices, these sinful activities, are normal. And it's not normal to avoid them. So that was what Freud said. He said you should never frustrate your sex desire. It'll lead to sickness, psychosis. That was this whole theory.
So vices means what?
Vice means sin, pop.
Sin.
Yeah. Illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, meat eating, like that. So Freud was saying, if you deny the sex urge, it'll cause sickness. Just the opposite of what's being said here. When a man is overtaken by evil spirit and haunted by it, the brain of the man becomes deranged, and in the madness of deranged condition, a man can perform many things unnatural to him in his natural condition. It's an amazing statement. When a man is overtaken by evil spirit and haunted by it, the brain of the man becomes deranged, and in the madness of deranged condition, a man can perform many things unnatural to him in his natural condition. The principles of vices are murdering, kidnapping, setting fire at other person's house, stealing, lying, cheating, etc. Okay? And you ask a question, Prabhupada just answered it. And according to big psychiatrists, these vices are committed in a state of insanity. Not anymore. Nowadays, they're trying to say it's okay. The present aggression on Egypt is an act of that means 1956 when he's writing this, because that's when England attacked Egypt. They blew up the Suez Canal. The present aggression on Egypt is an act of setting fire on others' home, and we consider it an act of vice in a state of insanity. The state of insanity on the part of the aggressors has also been accepted even by Lord Russell. You want to look up Lord Russell? This is called Maya. Maya means illusory energy, and when a man is too much captivated by the illusory energy, he cannot but commit only vices and vices. So when a person becomes captivated by Maya, they commit all kinds of sins. And one sin after another, just not one sin, but multiple sins pile up one after the other. How the illusory energy works is explained in Bhagavad Gita as follows. 13:21. Karya karanam kartritve hetu prakriti uchyate purusha sukha dukhanam bhaktrite hetu uchyate. You find Lord Russell? Who is he?
I don't know. Just a minute. I'm trying to see this. You found it?
Thirteen 21 is how illusory
Energy works. How Maya works. Karya, or the finished body that a living entity gets as the covering of his pure soul, is created by the laws of nature. Karana, or the senses and the mind, are also products or product of the material nature, and therefore she is the cause of all these senses. Material nature is the cause of the senses. Okay, Kartrita, or the control of the actions, are also done by Prakriti. In other words, Prakriti, or material nature, is also controlling our actions. Because the senses and mind are products of material nature, the gross material body is a product of material nature. So therefore, Prakriti, or material nature, controls our actions. The planetary actions, as described in astronomy, are some of the controls, or kartrita, of material nature. So the movement of the planets and planetary movements act as controlling factors in the demigods on those planets. In the revealed scriptures, we find that there is control of different deities whom we call by the name of Devata, or a god, even on movement of our eyelids. So, this control is also created by Prakriti, by her stringent laws. Yeah, so when we were talking about scientists last week, the scientists, to do scientific research, assume that there are pre-existing laws governing the functioning of the universe. Originally, they thought those laws were created by God, but as the scientists became more successful in creating things like bridges and submarines and rockets, then they threw God out. They said they just exist. You know.
I think I found it if it's the same Lord Russell.
Okay.
Bertrand Russell, born 1872, died in 1970. He got Nobel Prize in Literature just around the time of Egypt War, I think.
1956?
When did he get Nobel Prize? 19... He was in Trinity College, lectured at Harvard.
He got the Nobel Prize in Literature?
Yeah.
It might not be the same one. Go ahead.
Yeah, awarded Nobel Prize for Literature 1950 and visits Australia.
Yeah, it's not him. There are different Russells.
What's the context for Russell?
Oh, it might be him. I don't know.
Yeah, because he might be influential and he might have commented on...
Yeah, the war. I don't know. Do you have a different Russell than Bertrand Russell?
Yeah, there are William Russell. And then, no, I'm saying Lord Edward Russell is also there.
Okay, what did he do?
But he's 1805 to 1887.
So you cannot...
You are looking for 1956?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bertrand Russell was a very famous man.
So that might be him.
Yeah. So, can you look him up on Wikipedia?
Yeah.
But he...
There are a lot of Russells actually.
No, look up Bertrand Russell on Wikipedia.
Oh, Bertrand Russell on Wikipedia.
Okay, so here I'll continue.
Okay, they're saying Lord Russell is a form of address used for several different members of the English family of Russell.
Yeah, it's a famous family. Okay, but look up Bertrand Russell.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so
Okay, he's a logician, mathematician, historian, writer, social critic, political activist, and a Nobel laureate.
right.
Liberal, socialist, pacifist.
By the way, he's a nonsense. I know this guy. He's a big nonsense, big atheist. Go ahead.
Died in 1970, British Trinity College, award, school, main interest. I was trying to find a comment on the Egypt war.
Yeah, okay, so I will continue here. So Prabhupada has just made the point that material nature is controlling the actions of living entities. Because the body is made of material nature, and the mind is made of material nature, and all the objects of the senses are made of material nature. And the devatas on the different planets, the moving planets and the devatas also control all the movements in material nature, such as the digestion, the eyelid, all these different parts of the body being controlled by the devatas, and being influenced by the movements of the planets. So this control is also created by Prakriti, by our stringent laws. No living being can change such laws even by the highest perfection of scientific knowledge. The so-called scientific knowledge of the mundane scientist are different varieties of illusions, only to bewilder from the spiritual on the conditioned souls who have fallen from the pure state of existence, and such illusory scientific knowledge help us only in increasing the duration of our material existence. You see, Prabhupada is slamming the scientists. He's basically saying the mundane scientists are concerned with different varieties of illusions only to bewilder people from spiritual life and to believe in the illusory scientific knowledge, which only helps us to increase the duration of our material existence, meaning it only keeps us in material nature longer and longer, birth after birth. The so-called scientific knowledge is prompted by a desire to lord it over material nature, which is the root cause of all vices, as described above. So the scientists want to dominate material nature. So that is the root cause of all sin. So Prakriti is the cause of all the above mentioned states, namely the material body, the senses, and the control. And the Purusha is himself the cause of putting himself in the laws of nature. In other words, when we want to act as Purusha, or the enjoyer, and control something in nature, like it can be money, or a position, or a profession, or something, then we become entangled in the karma band. And it's our own fault, because we became attracted. Just like previously it said, attraction to material nature leads to the struggle for existence. That was one of the points that we learned, that we were supposed to remember from yesterday's lecture. Attraction to material nature. Oh, I like this car, I want to have this house, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to travel, take a cruise to the Caribbean. All that attraction to material nature is the cause of the struggle for existence. Yeah, people idealize traveling. You know, they think, oh, you know, Marco Polo, when he wrote when he wrote about his travels from Europe to Asia, Everyone was reading it with interest.
That's why Prabhu was saying that he was probably just
Tamaham bhajami Govinda Adi Purusha Tamaham bhajami Govinda Adi Purusha Tamaham bhajami Angani Yasha Sahan Ananta Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vikahasya Govinda Adi Purusha Govinda Adi Purusha Tamaham bhajami Govinda Adi Purusha Tamaham bhajami Govinda Adi Purusha Jami
I'm almost done with the correction. I'll leave it.
यशोमती नंदन ब्रजवर नागर गोकुल रंजन कान्हा यशोमती नंदन ब्रजवर नागर गोकुल रंजन कान्हा गोपी विपरण धन मदन मनोहर कालिया दमन विधान अमल हरि नाम में अभिलाषा विपिन पुराण दर नवीन नगर बर वंशी वदन सुवास ब्रजजन फालन सुरकुल नाशन ब्रजजन फालन सुरकुल नाशन नंद गोधन रखवाला नंद गोधन रखवाला गोविंद माधव नवनीत तस्कर गोविंद माधव नवनीत तस्कर सुंदरानंद गोपाल सुंदरानंद गोपाल यमुना तटचर गोपी वसन हर यमुना तटचर गोपी वसन हर रास रसिक कृपा मोया रास रसिक कृपा मोया श्री राधा वल्लभ वृंदावन नटवर श्री राधा वल्लभ वृंदावन नटवर गोविंद माधव नवनीत तस्कर श्री राधा वल्लभ वृंदावन नटवर गोविंद माधव नवनीत तस्कर श्री राधा वल्लभ वृंदावन नटवर यमुना तटचर गोपी वसन हर श्री राधा वल्लभ वृंदावन नटवर भगति विनोदाश्रय भगति विनोदाश्रय नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Balladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshan. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Balladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshan. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman Sitaram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद् चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापक आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेद भक्त वृंद की जय। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees हरे कृष्ण। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees हरे कृष्ण। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees हरे कृष्ण। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू श्री श्री गुरु एंड गौरांगा। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू श्री प्रभुपाद।
जय श्री श्री प्रणिता की जय। हरि बोल श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Okay, so So Prabhupada's making the point here that Krishna is not responsible for the suffering of the living entity. The living entity himself, or herself, is the cause of their own suffering. This is explained also in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse number 15, which says, Nadate kaschitip papam nachaiva sukritam vibhu agnena vritam jnanam tena muyanti jantavaha. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. The Sanskrit word vibhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby, by his chain of action and reaction, begins. So here's a very important point. And it's coming back to one of the fundamental points we were supposed to remember from yesterday, and that is, attraction to the material nature leads to the hard struggle for existence. Karsati, the hard struggle for existence. So, therefore, Prabhupada says here, Krishna does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is vibhu, or omniscient, but the living entity is anu, or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord, and so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. But the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. So, man proposes, God disposes. In other words, if we keep meditating on a certain thing that we want, then God will, or Krishna will, make an arrangement so that if we want that thing, we can actually try and get it. But he's not responsible for all the things that happen to us in trying to get that thing. So some people, they want to get a promotion, and they want to get a bonus, and they want to get a good evaluation, right? So they work really, really hard, day and night. And in the process, they get a heart attack. So whose fault is the heart attack? Is it the company's fault? Is it God's fault? Is it, I don't know, your landlord's fault? No, it's the fault of the person. He became attracted to a certain desire, and he became obsessed by it, and then he became motivated to exert himself in an unnatural way, and eventually he wasn't paying attention to his diet, he wasn't paying attention to his personal habits. He was obsessed by attaining that goal, and he gets a heart attack. This happens all the time. People become obsessed with getting something material, and then they get stressed, and then they get sick, and then sometimes they die. Okay, so is Krishna responsible for that? No, he's not responsible for it. Is Trump responsible for it? No, he's not responsible for it. It's the people who out of ignorance became attracted to that particular set of desires, and their decision to push themselves beyond their normal capacity and ignore good principles of health and diet and everything, and then they get sick and they can eventually die. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of living entity as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. So now we're having a big lesson here in psychology, right? Super psychology. So desire is the subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills the desire of the living entity as he deserves, as the living entity deserves. So, based on our previous karma, we might have so many desires in this lifetime, but we only can satisfy a certain number of them, and to a certain degree, according to our previous karma. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not, therefore, omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute, independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. Now this brings up the question of education. Yesterday we explained that about Varna and Ashrama, and what is actually the goal of materialistic education. It's basically to get a job. Why do you need a job? Because you need money. Why do you need money? You need money for sense gratification. Why do you want sense gratification? Because you've become convinced by materialistic education that that's the goal of life. So that it's all a false path. And it just leads to a harder and harder struggle for existence. And it leads a person into a impossible realm of competition. Why do I say impossible? Because there are many people out there with infinite desires, and there's limited resources to satisfy those desires. So there's severe competition, and it causes stress. And sometimes people can't deal with it, and they fall through the cracks, and they become basically vegetables. They can't handle all that stress. And why does it happen? Because they're attracted, as we said, one of the points yesterday was attraction to material nature leads to a hard struggle for existence. If we lose our attraction to things in the material world, then we will not struggle. Now, some people say, well, that means you're lazy. No. There's another desire, a type of desire. Those are spiritual desires. And that's what Prabhupada is saying here. He said this several times already in the Bhagavad Gita earlier. He says, however, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain him and be eternally happy. So, wait a minute. Why are people working so hard? Be happy. Right? And is that happiness eternal? No. But the Lord is promising eternal happiness. You see how we get dumbed down by materialistic education? We think, oh no, that's all fairy tales. What's a fairy tale is happiness through material development and the material economic development in the material world. That's a fairy tale. It's a mirage. It's nonsense. See? But to convince someone of that is almost impossible because they've been intoxicated to the point of believing that anything spiritual is a fairy tale and anything material is real. Right?
Because probably there are more examples, or 99% is material examples are there, and spiritual is very less.
We have Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, by the way, what happened to the light? Yeah, Prabhupada is an example. He comes to America with nothing. In 11 years, he builds up a huge organization, but he's not attached to it. So then he leaves, and he leaves it to his disciples to manage properly. So this material desire is the subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. Okay, let me see. Let me see what happened. There's some mystery. Not mystery, but mystery. Ah, there you go.
Timer is
It's not working? Uh-huh. Then how come it came on? How come it came on just now?
No, I put directly into the plug.
Remove the time.
Oh, you removed the timer. Oh, okay. Yes. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare, the Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in impious activities so that he may go to hell. Whoa. Koshitaki Upanishad. Sounds like a Japanese Upanishad. Koshitaki. Mr. Koshitaki. Yeah. Upanishad 3.8. And then the living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell as a cloud is driven by the air. So now, it's very clear. It all depends on our desire. And we have been taught and brainwashed or brain damaged, contaminated, to think and desire only for material benefits and the hell with spiritual stuff. And that is the end result of material education. That
It becomes completely opposite to the Calvinist then. Because Calvinists pray to God.
Calvin is a nonsense. He was a materialist in the garb of a minister, or a Christian minister. Their theory is work hard and enjoy material opulence, and at the same time pray to Jesus. In other words, there's a saying, pray to God and pass the ammunition. And pass the ammunition. Look it up on the internet. Pray to God and pass the ammunition. That means you pray to God and then you say, give me some more ammunition so I can shoot.
That's what America is doing.
Yeah.
It means they are trust the God, something like that.
Yeah, before Bush went to Afghanistan, he called Billy Graham and all these big Christian ministers. They had a big prayer meeting in the National Cathedral, I think, in Washington. The National Cathedral is a fantastic church. And it has an amazing story how it was built. Anyway, it's a gigantic church in Washington, D.C.
It's an American patriot.
Oh, no, praise the Lord and pass down. Yeah, I got it wrong.
1942, Frank Loesser.
It was a song, or what was it?
Yeah. American patriot song composed by Frank Loesser in 1942.
That's during World War II. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Right.
I wonder if the lyrics is good.
They are supplying ammunition to the whole world now.
Yes. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Okay, so yeah, the Calvinist theory, work hard, develop materially, and pray to God. It's good for the Industrial Revolution. It's a great religion for the Industrial Revolution. You work day and night. What did he say?
Thakur, in one of his songs, he writes, Jora Vidya, Boy Mayar Vaibhav, Tomara Bhajane Bada, Janmiya, Nitya Sansare, Jiva Ke Karaye Gada.
Yeah, it's condemning material education.
So material education, Jora Vidya, it's an opulence of illusion, Maya Devi.
Yeah, it just makes you into an ass.
Moho Janmiya, it's born of attachment, Moho Janmiya, and Anitya Samsara. And in this temporary world,
And you stay in
the purpose is to make an ass out of a human.
A mess make you into an ass. Yeah. That's his valuation of material education. Yeah, it just leads to stress, leads to a hard struggle for existence, and the little bit of sense gratification you get convinces you to continue working like that. Right. See, that was the idea of the hippie movement. The hippie movement, they figured out, many of the hippies came from wealthy families. They figured out, I don't have to have a lot of money to have sense gratification. I just have to convince other people to, just have free sense gratification. We all live together. We all share our marijuana together and share our food together, and we just enjoy our senses. We don't need to work hard to have sense gratification. We don't need a big house and a big salary to have sense gratification. If that's the goal of life, we could just have sense gratification, without working. And we can have more, right? That was their theory. Of course, that didn't work either. But if the goal is sense gratification, you don't have to work hard. You can have plenty of sense gratification. Look at the natives. Like you have these tribes in the Amazon jungle that never had any contact with modern civilization, right? They're living a life, with no electricity, no television, no cell phones, and no washing machines, and they're living in nature, and mainly they live by hunting, maybe a very little bit of farming, because there's so much growing in the forest. They know how to live off the plants in the forest, and they hardly have any clothes. They walk around most of the time naked, right? And they bathe in the rivers and ponds, and they have their own, knowledge of herbs for medicine and so forth. And they have their own religion, and they have their own rituals and everything, and they have no contact. And then every once in a while, these people fly over with helicopters and sort of hover over them and take pictures of them, and they look up and they're trying to shoot their arrows at the helicopter.
Same thing in Andaman Nicobar Islands.
In the Andaman.
Nicobar, same thing.
Yeah, you have native Aborigines.
When helicopters of Indian Navy come, and they say, just don't bother them, let them do.
Yeah, but now they don't have all these modern amenities, but they're having plenty of sense gratification. They have so many children and so much. Therefore, it says, however, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. Okay. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by ignorance. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. The Vedanta Sutras also confirm this. By samya nagrinye na sapek satvat tata hi darsayati. The Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears to.
And that's true because person, if he's doing something, he thinks that is normal.
Yes.
And if that doesn't happen properly or something goes wrong, then he blames
He doesn't believe in God anymore. It's all
But
God's
if it
fault.
works, then he did it. It's his own ability. Then.
Yes. I did it, yes.
The problem is that what he thinks is right is actually wrong. That's the
And what he thinks is wrong is actually right. Don't forget that part. Yeah.
that he doesn't even think, Prabhu.
Oh, no. They say it out loud. Eating meat is good for you, and not eating meat is bad for you. Look at all the successful people that eat meat. Right?
They say Prabhu like that, but actually they might be reducing the meat at their table. Like for example, Bill Clinton, he don't eat now anything. Because of his health reason basically. But
Yeah.
he has stopped eating. He vegetarian from last I think many
So
years.
it's not principle of mercy, but if this is harmful for me, then
Did he stop drinking wine?
Maybe
Did he stop running after women? So, does he offer his food? Okay, so therefore, it says, 3rd chapter, 13th verse, Yajnasi sastina santa vuchante sarvakilbasai. Punjate te tvagam papa ye pachanti atmakarana. The devotees of our Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others, who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment, verily eat only sin. So he gave up one sin, but he's still committing another sin. Right? So this is called the philosophy of the half hen. See? Right? Will a half hen give you an egg? No. You cut off the neck of the hen to save money on food, right? But you kill the hen, it won't give you an egg anymore. So he's got the wrong philosophy. He's only got part of the truth. But even that part is wrong too, because okay, he stopped eating meat, but he didn't stop eating sin. Right? Just like this guy, his name is Wynn. I forget his first name. He's a Jewish guy, but he's one has some of the biggest casinos in Las Vegas and Macau. Right? Very rich guy, right? A big supporter of Trump. Someone convinced him to become a vegan, right? So now he's a vegan, right? And now it's been revealed that he's a molester of many women, right? So why did he take up veganism? So he can improve his sense gratification, not because he wants to serve Krishna. So the same with Billy Boy. William Jefferson Clintock. He has given up eating meat, become a vegetarian, but only to preserve and prolong his sense gratification.
Their objective is to those only.
Yeah. And the monkey is also a vegetarian. Does that make him a pure devotee? No. The monkeys are still nonsense. Yeah. So we need to have the whole picture. See, that's why material education is so dangerous. They give you a very small part of reality. They teach you a very small part. They're leaving out huge masses of knowledge of reality. And therefore, people don't achieve real happiness. They don't achieve love. They don't achieve real affection. And they end up isolated in the world. This isolation is becoming rampant now. They just live, in the computer. Their whole social life is a computer. Okay, so then to finish this, So Prabhupada said something interesting here that leads into another fascinating topic, and that is so this control of the body and the mind is done by Prakriti through her stringent laws. No living being can change such laws even by the highest perfection of scientific knowledge. The so-called scientific knowledge of the mundane scientists are different varieties of illusions only to bewilder people from following the spiritual path and to keep them conditioned by material nature. Such illusory scientific knowledge helps us only in increasing the duration of our material existence. Okay. So, Prabhupada explains this much more in depth in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 1st chapter, 69th verse. And there's a very short purport, but right after that verse, there's what Prabhupada says is additional notes for this chapter. So Prabhupada did translate this part of the Bhagavatam. It's near the end of his translation of the Bhagavatam. So, in that, he says, the word karyate refers to one who attracted the pregnancy of Devaki and bewildered Mother Yasoda. These pastimes are very confidential. The Supreme Personality of Godhead ordered Yogamaya to bewilder his associates in his pastimes and bewilder demons like Kamsa. So in other words, Yogamaya is bewildering Devaki and Yasodamai, right? But she's also bewildering Kamsa, but not in the same way. So now we're going to see, the bewilderment is there, but it's not in the same way. So now we're going to see the difference between Yogamaya and Mahamaya. Prabhupada's going to explain it here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead ordered Yogamaya to bewilder his associates in his pastimes and bewilder demons like Kamsa. As stated previously, Yogamayam Samadhi Sat. To give service to the Lord, Yogamaya appeared along with Mahamaya. Mahamaya refers to Yaya Samohitam Jagat. This is a verse from the 1st canto, 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, describing it's first, I think it's the 8th chapter, 1st canto. It's describing what Vyasadeva saw. He saw Krishna, but standing behind Krishna in the shadow of Krishna was Maya, the illusory energy of the Lord. To give service to the Lord, Yogamaya appeared along with Mahamaya. Mahamaya refers to Yaya Samohitam Jagat, one who bewilders the entire world, material world. From this statement, it is to be understood that Yogamaya, in her partial expansion, becomes Mahamaya and bewilders the conditioned souls. In other words, the entire creation has two divisions, transcendental or spiritual and material. Yogamaya manages the spiritual world, and by her partial expansion as Mahamaya, she manages the material world. As stated in the Narada Pancharatra, Mahamaya is a partial expansion of Yogamaya. The Narada Pancharatra clearly states that the Supreme Personality of God has one potency, which is sometimes described as Durga. The Brahma Samhita says, Chayeva yasya bhuvanani vibharti Durga. Durga is not different from Yogamaya. When one understands Durga properly, he is immediately liberated. For Durga is originally the spiritual potency Hiladini Shakti, by whose mercy one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikirtir Hiladini Shakti Rasmad. The Mahamaya Shakti, however, is a covering of Yogamaya. That is very interesting. That explains a bunch of things that I've always had questions about. Naham prakasasarvasya yogamaya samavitaha budoyam nabijanati lokamam ajam avyam. 7th chapter, 25th verse. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. So this is 7th chapter, 25th verse, and it says, in the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.19. Okay, so this Yayo Samohita Hitam is in the 9th chapter of 1st canto. It is said that the Lord is covered by the... Oh, no, maybe it's the 7th chapter. And you have to look. That's the 7th chapter. Oh, wait a minute, I'll tell you. Jai Shri Radha Nilmadhava Ki Jai. Seventh chapter, sorry. 175. Okay.
175 is where Vyasadeva says?
I think it's Vyasadeva, but it might be Kunti Devi. It should be Vyasadeva. You can take a look at it. Okay, yeah. So, in the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.19. No, it's Vyasadeva. Kunti is the 8th chapter. Yeah. It is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yogamaya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. This Yogamaya curtain is also confirmed in Ishopanishad, in which the devotee prays, Hiranmayana Patrena. O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yogamaya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchitananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in His transcendental form of bliss and knowledge, is covered by the internal potency of the Brahmajyoti, and the less intelligent impersonalists cannot see the Supreme on this account. So there's another element added here. So it says, when one understands Durga properly, he is immediately liberated, for Durga is originally the spiritual potency, Hiladini, by whose mercy one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikirtir Hiladini Shaktir Asmad. The Mahamaya Shakti, however, is a covering of Yogamaya, and she is therefore called the covering potency. By this covering potency, the entire material world is bewildered. Ya samohitam jagat. In conclusion, bewildering the conditioned souls and liberating the devotees are both functions belonging to Yogamaya. So, when it says here that the Yogamaya, Mahashakti, however, is a covering of Yogamaya, and Yogamaya is covering Krishna. Therefore, there's two layers of Maya that we have to overcome in order to be able to see Krishna. It's not just one layer. And that's why it's only by complete surrender to Krishna that we can overcome those two layers. Now, Yogamaya is not a bad layer, right? Because when you enter into Krishna's so by the way, Yogamaya is not acting in Vaikuntha. It's only acting in Goloka, or Gokula. Goloka. There's no Yogamaya in the Brahmajyoti. There's no Yogamaya in Vaikuntha. So in Vaikuntha, you see Narayana, and you understand he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you act with awe and reverence. But in order to become intimate in the pastimes of Krishna, you have to be an illusion. You can't think of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, Yogamaya is acting in Goloka, and it's acting also in Krishna's pastimes in the material world. However, at the same time, Mahamaya is a covering of Yogamaya. So what's happening here? Well, we see it when, in the appearance of Krishna, when Kamsa brings Yogamaya back from Vrindavan. She was the child of Yasodamai, and previously he took Krishna, the child of Devaki, to Vrindavan and left him with Yasodamai. And during that time, Yasodamai was sleeping. She didn't see that switch take place. So, when he comes back with Yogamaya, Kamsa comes down, and he's surprised because he's expecting to see a boy, but it's a girl. But nevertheless, he decides to kill the child. Now, Kamsa is a worshipper of Durga, right? So he takes the child, right, and is ready to kill it like he killed the other children. But all of a sudden, Yogamaya jumps out of his hand and goes up into the sky and reveals her form. But what form does he see? He sees Durga, right? And he becomes afraid because Durga is his worshipable deity, but he didn't expect to see her. And then she warns him that you're a fool and Krishna is going to kill you as prophesized. And then he becomes real humble and frightened and humble and so forth. So, but at the same time, Devaki and Vasudeva and Yasodamai are under the influence of Yogamaya. See? They're not frightened, but Kamsa is frightened. See? So, therefore it says here, in conclusion, bewildering the conditioned souls and liberating the devotees are both functions belonging to Yogamaya, because Mahamaya is the function of Yogamaya. So you can just say Yogamaya.
Mahamaya is above Yogamaya?
No. She's a function. I mean, she's an expansion of Yogamaya.
Yogamaya, okay.
Yeah, and a small expansion of her. Right?
That's why they have these two words also. Bhadrakali is a manifestation of Subhadra. So Subhadra is
Right.
who is good, that is Yogamaya. And Bhadrakali is the Mahamaya manifestation. But the word common is Bhadra.
Okay.
Subhadra and Bhadrakali.
May I ask something?
Yeah.
You said that Devaki and Vasudeva were also under the control of Yogamaya, but they saw the Vishnu form of Krishna, and then when Krishna returns, that time also Devaki knew that he is the Supreme Lord, and she was not, she was just standing there, and then Krishna paid obeisance, and then later she asked for her sons to be returned back from the abode of Yamaraja. So she knew that Krishna is the Supreme Lord.
Well, no. When Krishna appears, he appears in a baby form as Narayana, because Devaki and Vasudeva, they meditated for 12,000 years on Narayana, to have Narayana as their child. They believe that Narayana is God. So, but when she sees this little baby with 4 arms, she gets very afraid, and she prays, please just appear as an ordinary human being, because if Kamsa comes down here and sees you have 4 arms, he'll definitely kill you. But if he just sees an ordinary baby with 2 arms, then he won't kill you. That's Yogamaya acting on her. You see? That just proves that Narayana is coming from Krishna, not that Krishna is coming from Narayana. In the same way, when Arjuna sees Narayana, he asks to see Narayana, right? But then he wants to see Krishna in his 2-armed form. So the pastimes of Krishna are under the influence of Yogamaya. But there's no Yogamaya in Vaikuntha. So when people see the Supreme Personality of Godhead with 4 arms, they think that's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They don't understand this confidential knowledge that Krishna is the origin of Narayana. And therefore, the proof of that is Bhagavad Gita 11th chapter. When the gopis are trying to find Krishna, and he tries to trick them by appearing as Narayana, they're not interested. I mean, they pay obeisances, but they're very impatient. They want to keep looking for Krishna. Right? Lakshmi Devi is the eternal consort of Narayana, but she became attracted to Krishna and wanted to enter into the rasa dance of Krishna, and she was not permitted because she didn't want to change her body into a body of a gopi. Right? And then Bhisma Pitamaha, he knows Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He describes him also as the original Narayana, the Adi Narayana. But his worship is a Parthasarati, because as Parthasarati, Krishna manifests in Narayana form and ran toward him with the wheel. So that's his choice. That's his preference. One time there was a devotee asked Prabhupada, how come, he's worshipping Narayana, but he knows Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Prabhupada said that was his preference.
Also,
Yeah.
Mahavishnu himself wanted to have darshan of Krishna,
Yeah.
so both Krishna and Arjun, no one in the history ever, went to seek
Mahavishnu.
to Karnadakshay Vishnu. And the Karnadakshay Vishnu was so eager to see Krishna in his original forms, he is attracted by of which he himself is a part.
Yes, so therefore Krishna has 4 qualities that Narayana doesn't have. First is amazing pastimes, where he subordinates himself to his devotees. It's unimaginable in Vaikuntha, such a thing, right? 2, the incredible love of the gopis for Krishna. Nothing that can parallel that. 3, Krishna's flute. It's unbelievable. I mean, if you read Brahma Samhita, Brahma becomes enlightened by hearing the flute. So the flute is not just ordinary music. It has all knowledge. And number 4 is the unbelievable, charming beauty of Krishna. It surpasses even Narayana. Now, Narayana and Krishna are the same person. But in Narayana, there's 93 to 96% of the 64 qualities of the Lord, attributes of the Lord, whatever. But in Krishna, it's all 64. So it's not a difference of a person, but it's a difference of taste, of rasa, of sweetness, actually. It's a taste, it's a difference of sweetness. Therefore, and now if you study the Tirupavai by Goda Devi, she goes to Vrindavan and is trained by the gopis, and she meets Radha and Krishna, and she says Krishna is the God of all gods. And she's a Sri Vaishnava. And she's she's one of the Alvars, the only female Alvar. Right? But then she marries Ranganath and disappears in the body of Ranganath. Just like Bhisma Pitama, he tells Arjuna, this Krishna here, standing with 2 arms, this is the Adi Narayana. You don't know it, but I'm telling you. But yet, his preference is to worship Parthasarati, the driver of the chariot, because at one point he manifests in Narayana form. Right? When Krishna kills someone, he doesn't kill it in his 2-arm form with his flute. He doesn't hit the guy in the head with a flute. He manifests his form as Narayana and kills him with the chakra or the gada. Right? So that's... And Bhisma has a special rasa with him. So your question was, later on, now I explain the first part, at the birth, or the appearance of Krishna, Devaki becomes afraid that if he appears as Narayana, Kamsa will definitely kill him, because that's the understanding for them that that's God. So he asks him, just present yourself as an ordinary child, with 2 arms, and then he might think you're not God, he might not kill you. That's the way she's thinking. She's trying to protect her son. Then you said when Krishna comes to see her, what did you say? Okay, so every once in a while, sometimes the veil of Yogamaya is withdrawn. Like when Mother Yasoda looked into the mouth of Krishna, she saw the whole cosmic manifestation. And for a moment, she doubted that her son is her son. She thought this might be God. But then again, the shroud or the Yogamaya acted on it, she forgot about it. So sometimes that happens. But the general rule is that they're under Yogamaya. They don't understand that Krishna is God. They think he's just their son. Yeah. Otherwise, they would not be able to associate with him in that way. If you don't like Yogamaya, you can go to Vaikuntha. There's no Yogamaya in Vaikuntha. But there's not such intimate relationship with Narayana. There's definitely a relationship with Narayana, but it's ritualized and very steeped in awe and reverence. Okay, so I'm going to finish this, then we'll stop. So, in conclusion, bewildering the conditioned souls and liberating the devotees are both functions belonging to Yogamaya. Transferring the pregnancy of Devaki and keeping Mother Yasoda in deep sleep were both done by Yogamaya. Mahamaya cannot act upon such devotees, for they are always liberated. But although it is not possible for Mahamaya to control liberated souls or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she did bewilder Kamsa. The action of Yogamaya in presenting herself before Kamsa was the action of Mahamaya, not Yogamaya. Yogamaya cannot even see or touch such polluted persons as Kamsa. In Chandi, in the Markandeya Purana, this is all about Maya, 11th chapter, Mahamaya says, during the 28th Yuga in the period of Vaivasvata Manu, or the 7th Manu, I shall take birth as the daughter of Yasoda and be known as Vindhyachala Vasini. The distinction between the two Mayas, Yogamaya and Mahamaya, is described as follows. Krishna Rasa Lila with the gopis and the gopis' bewilderment in respect to their husbands, fathers-in-law, and other such relatives were arrangements of Yogamaya in which Mahamaya had no influence. The Bhagavatam gives sufficient evidence of this when it clearly says Yogamaya upasritaha. On the other hand, there were asuras headed by Salva and Kshatriyas like Duryodhana who were bereft of devotional service in spite of seeing Krishna's carrier Garuda and the universal form, and who could not understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This was also bewilderment, but this bewilderment was due to Mahamaya. So, therefore it says, this was also bewilderment, but this bewilderment was due to Mahamaya. Therefore it is to be concluded that the Maya, which drags a person from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Jada Maya, and the Maya which acts on the transcendental platform is called Yogamaya. When Nanda Maharaj was taken away by Varuna, he saw Krishna's opulence, but nonetheless, he thought of Krishna as his son. He thought of Krishna as his son. Such feelings of parental love in the spiritual world are acts of Yogamaya, not of Jadamaya or Mahamaya. This is the opinion of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So, what does he say? Jadamaya?
That is Jada Vidya.
Jada Vidya, okay.
Maya Vaibhav. So material knowledge is the opulence of the illusory energy.
Yes, so that's why Prabhupada was against our children being educated in material knowledge, because it just takes people away from Krishna. That's the end result of it. And it's Mahamaya. Scientific knowledge and material knowledge is Mahamaya, because it'll take a person away from Krishna.
That's why there's other words, Maya Apahrita Jnana. Their so-called intelligent scientists, it's their knowledge is actually taken away by the illusory energy.
Yes, yes. So actually it's a crime to subject kids to that type of knowledge. Okay, so we will stop right there. Any questions?
So, the earlier part of the discussion today, what I understood is that